Hello everyone, welcome to session 24 of Theory of Computation or Formal Languages and Automata Theory. In today's session, we are going to discuss about the second normal form, which is called Greibach normal form. In the previous session, we discussed about the Chomsky normal form. So here, in that concept, we discussed how to convert a given context-free grammar into Chomsky normal form. Okay, so we have seen this concept with some problems and examples, right? So just to review it quickly, so I have given a definition of a Chomsky normal form here. Say context-free grammar is said to be in Chomsky normal form if all the productions are in the form capital A denotes capital BC or capital A denotes small a, right? So whenever we have a production rules in a CFG, like one variable is denoting two variables and one variable denoting only a terminal. So whenever we have the production like this, then that CFG is considered to be in CNF. Okay. So in today's session, we are going to discuss about the another type of normal form, which is called Greibach normal form, which is also called as GNF, Greibach normal form. So let us have a look on this. What is this GNF and how to convert a CFG into GNF? A CFG is said to be in GNF if all the productions are in the form capital A denotes small a capital X or capital A denotes small a, right? So here, if you see the productions here, a variable is denoting a terminal followed by a non-terminal, right? So if the productions are written in this form, a variable is denoting a terminal followed by any variables or a variable denoting a terminal. If the productions were written in this particular form, then that CFG is in GNF, or that particular CFG will be considered as in GNF. Okay, so here if you observe, capital A and capital X are the variables, right? So here capital A and capital X are the variables. So in GNF, a variable may denote a terminal followed by any variables. Okay, followed by any variables, one variable, two variable, three variable, or no variable, right? So let me say I am writing here one variable. So A denotes small b capital C, right? So this is the capital C. So this form will be considered is in GNF. Okay, if I add one more variable, capital A denotes small b capital C capital D. So here if you observe this form, this production is consisting of a terminal symbol followed by two variables, right? So as I mentioned, after a terminal symbol, you may have any number of variables, right? So that is one form. Or a variable may denote one terminal symbol, one terminal symbol. So if A denotes small b, so it is also in GNF. Why? Because a variable is denoting one terminal, right? So if you compare this one with the Chomsky normal form, in Chomsky normal form we don't have terminal and variable combinations in the production rule, right? So either you have two variables in the body of the productions, or you may have one terminal in the body of the production in CNF. But here in the GNF, you could observe here you have a combination of terminal followed by any number of variables. Okay, so any number of variables means after terminal you may also have one variable, two variable, or no variable, right? So these are the production rules, right? So if any CFG consisting of the production rules in these forms, then that CFG is considered as a GNF. Okay. Now, capital A and capital X are the variables. Capital A belongs to capital V. That means A is nothing but a variable. A belongs to variable set. And capital X also belongs to V star. V star means already you know that you can have any variables, any combination of variables, okay, or even the epsilon is also possible, right? So what happen if you substitute epsilon in place of x means it will use the form capital A denotes small a, right? So that's why we are having the another production rule in which variable is denoting a terminal, right? Now let us discuss the rules for converting the CFG into GNF. Okay, for every context-free grammar, G with epsilon does not belongs to L of G. So any context-free grammar which is represented as G and epsilon does not belongs to the language of that grammar. That means epsilon should not be there in the language of the grammar. So epsilon should not be there in the language of the grammar. For such context-free grammar, there exists an equivalent grammar in GNF, right? So here we are considering the given CFG as a G, capital G, and the resultant grammar in GNF, we are considering it as a G dash. Okay, so that is the meaning. So any context-free grammar in which the epsilon does not belongs to the language of that grammar, then there exists an equivalent grammar in GNF. Okay. Now we can convert a context-free grammar G is equal to V comma T comma P comma S, that we already know, four tuple notation, into GNF. The resultant grammar in GNF is represented as G dash is equal to what are the tuples that may change? V dash, the set of variables may change, set of terminals may change, set of production rules may change, and the S is the start symbol which remains same, right? So in G and G dash, if you compare, V, T, and P tuples may vary or may change, whereas the start symbol will remain same. Okay, so that is the difference that we are representing between G and G dash. So what is G? G is nothing but given context-free grammar. G dash is nothing but GNF, a CFG in GNF. Okay, Greeback normal form. Right. Now what are the steps? So here to convert the given context-free grammar into GNF, we must know the Chomsky normal form. Okay, so the previous concept must be known to you in order to convert the given CFG into GNF, right? So step one here is eliminate epsilon productions. So first of all, in the given context-free grammar, check whether it is having epsilon productions or not. If there, eliminate those epsilon productions, and then afterwards eliminate the unit productions. Okay, after eliminating the unit production, eliminate the useless symbols and productions. Okay, so after performing these three steps, then convert the obtained grammar from the above three steps into CNF, right? So first thing is that you may be given with a grammar CFG which is called as G. So first of all, eliminate the epsilon productions, right? So first of all, eliminate the epsilon production. Okay, so after eliminating the epsilon production, you will get some modified grammar, right? So that modified grammar you have to take and apply the step number 2. What is step 2? Eliminate the unit productions. Okay, so step 2 means eliminate the unit productions. Eliminate the unit production. So whatever the resultant grammar that you will get, apply the step 3. What is step 3? Remove the useless symbols and productions. Okay, useless symbols and productions, step 3. Next, whatever the resultant grammar that you will get, apply the step 4. Okay, apply the step 4. So once you start performing these steps, you are going to get different versions of the grammar, right? So the given grammar is considered as the CFG and we are representing it with G, right? If that grammar is having epsilon productions, we will eliminate it, right? After eliminating, you will get a modified context free grammar, right? So that modified context free grammar you have to take and apply the step number 2, that is check for unit productions, right? So if there are unit productions, eliminate those unit productions. Then the modified grammar, that means after applying the unit productions, that means after eliminating the unit productions, that grammar you have to consider for verifying the symbols, useless symbols and production rules. Okay, so after removing those useless symbols and production rules, whatever the resultant grammar that you will get, Then apply the step number 4. What is that step number 4? The resultant grammar obtained from above steps will be converted into CNF. Okay, CNF, right? So these four steps you already know, right? Next, step number 5. So after converting the CFG into CNF, now the fifth step is to relabel all the variables such that the names are V1, comma V2, comma V3, comma Vn. So after converting the CFG into CNF, Chomsky normal form, in step number 5, what we have to do is that we have to assign the sequence to the variables, right? So first variable or first non-terminal should be assigned a name as V1. Second variable in the grammar will be assigned a value or a name as V2, V3, so on up to Vn. So let me consider that I am having a grammar in CNF, AB, okay, AB. So for only variables, we have to assign the names, okay, in sequence. So here if you consider S denotes capital A, B, so here it is in CNF. So we have to assign the V1 value to S. Okay, so S will be referred by a variable V1. Next, we will assign the next value, that is V2 for A. Okay, so the next time onwards, the A will be considered as V2. Okay, next variable we are having is B3. So assign the name to that particular variable as V3. Okay, likewise you have to assign the variable names to the variables in the grammar. Okay, so in the grammar, for each variable you have to assign the names. Okay, V1, V2, V3, like. So next thing. So one more point here is that if we are having one more production like A denotes BD, A denotes BD, right? So in this case, A is already assigned. So you should not assign the value V4 to A, right? So since A is already assigned a value V2 or name V2, you should not assign the again the value for A, right? Next B is already assigned a value, that is V3. So we already renamed the variable B with V3. So again, no need to assign the further occurrences of B as a new name, right? And next D. So till now we haven't assigned any name to D. So here we have to assign a value, that is V4 to D. So the D will become V4. Okay. So like this. So a variable will be assigned a name only once. Okay. So even though irrespective of number of times the variable has occurred in the productions, right? So variable will be assigned name only once, okay, irrespective of the number of times the variable has occurred in the production rules, right? So remember that point. Next, point number 6 or rule number 6, order the productions by using indexing, right? So after assigning the variable names to each variable in the production, what you have to do is that we have to order the productions. Okay, so we have to order the productions according to their indexes, right? So how it could be, Vi denotes Vj alpha, right? So Vi denotes Vj alpha with I less than j. Okay, so once you order the productions, that means you have to first specify the V1 production, next you have to specify the V2 production, next you have to specify the V3 production likewise. So that is the meaning of ordering the production with respect to their index values, right? Okay, then after after sorting them or after arranging in a sequence, consider the each production. So it could be in this form: Vi denotes Vj alpha. So a variable is denoting another variable followed by alpha. Alpha could be either variable or a terminal or a sequence of variables or terminals. So it doesn't matter. So Vi denotes Vj alpha with I less than j. So if we are having a production, Vi denotes Vj alpha and I is less than j. Okay, now consider the production of Vj. Okay, so whenever you find this production in this form, Vi denotes Vj alpha and I value is less than j, you have to check for the production Vj whether it is in GNF or not, right? So the moment when you encounter such type of production, Vi denotes Vj alpha, where I value is less than J, immediately you have to check whether Vj production is in GNF or not, right? If Vj production is in GNF, then substitute the Vj production, that means the body of Vj production in Vi. Okay, that means you have to substitute the Vj production in this Vi rule. Like, okay, so whatever the body of the production will be there for Vj, that will be substituted in place of Vj in Vi rule, right? So this is Vi rule, right? We are saying this is Vi rule. Why? Because head of the production is Vi, right? So Vi denotes Vj alpha. I less than J. You have to immediately check whether Vj is in GNF or not. If Vj is in GNF, substitute its production in place of Vj in Vi rule. Okay. So here you have to substitute, right? So let me consider I am having the production like V1 denotes V2. Let me say I am having small b followed by V3. Okay. So it is in form Vi denotes Vj. So this is part is called Vj. So what is I value? 1. What is j value? 2. So 1 is less than 2, right? 1 is less than 2. So then what you have to do? You have to consider Vj production. So suppose you are having the Vj production like V2 denotes some small c, right? So it is in GNF, right? So V2 is in GNF. So what you have to do? Substitute the V2 production, that means body of V2, in place of V2 in V1 rule. So this is the V1 rule, right? So V1 rule. So substitute the V2 production in V1 rule, right? So what you have to do? V1 denotes what is the V2 production body, that is consisting of small c. So substitute in place of V2, right? So small c, and B V3 will remain same. Okay, B3 will remain same like this. Okay, I think the concept is clear for you. Okay. So this is simple one example. Okay. So just to showcase that how this rule will be applied. Okay. Next, seventh rule. So this is the controversial case where I value is greater than j. So consider the production you are having like Vi denotes Vj alpha. Suppose you are having the production Vi denotes Vj alpha and I value is greater than j, and I value is greater than j. And here consider that Vj production is also is in GNF, right? So if you consider the Vj production, it is like Vj denotes Vk alpha where j value is less than k. Since j is less than k, we could say that Vj is in GNF, right? So Vj is in GNF. Not then what we have to do? Substitute Vj production in Vi rule, right? So in Vi body, wherever you have Vj, substitute its body there, right? So what it will become? It will become like Vj denotes what is the body of Vj? That is this one, Vk alpha, right? So Vk alpha, and this alpha will remain same like this, right? So you have to repeat this process until you will get I here, Vi. Okay, so you have to repeat this process until we get Vi in the RHS of the production, right? So if you observe this rule which I have written, I am having K, Vk in the right hand side, right? So I have to repeat this process until I get Vi in the RHS of the production. Okay, so until I get Vi denotes Vi alpha, like production rule, right? So until the first symbol in the body of the production becomes equal to the head of the production, right? So you have to repeat this process. Okay, so I think the rule is very clear. So here we are considering the production Vi denotes Vj alpha, where I value is greater than j, and Vj will be considered as in GNF, right? So what we have to do? Substitute that Vj value in Vi production rule, right? So this process we have to repeat until this RHS consists of Vi. Vi variable until you will get Vi in the RHS of the production. Okay. Next, eighth rule. So during this process, if you find the left recursion rule, we have to eliminate that left recursion. Okay. So here, this is the somehow this is very important concept, left recursion. So what is this left recursion? So left recursion means whenever you have some production like capital A denotes A alpha or beta, right? So I'm writing, see here, I'm having the A production like A denotes capital A alpha or beta, right? So what is the left recursion rule? When we can say that a production is left recursive. So just try to concentrate here. So whenever head of the production, okay, and the first symbol in the body of the production are same, then that production rule is considered as left recursive. So here if you observe, head of the production is having A, that means LHS we are having A, and first symbol in the RHS is also the same variable, right? So whenever you find such type of production rules where left hand side and first symbol in the right hand side of the production are same, then that rule is called as left recursive rule. Okay, so such rules we have to eliminate, right? So in the step 7 we considered that you have to substitute Vj value in Vi production until we get Vi in the RHS of the production, isn't it? So that means definitely after applying the seventh step, you are going to get a left recursive rule, right? So where the variable in the left hand side will become equal to the uh, first symbol in the right hand side of the production. Okay, first symbol in the body of the production. Okay, so whenever these two symbols are same, then that production will be considered as left recursive production. Okay, so such productions must be eliminated. Okay, so to eliminate such productions we have to add fewer new productions. Okay, so we will discuss this with a example here. So here, let me consider I am having the left recursion rule like capital A denotes A alpha 1. That means for A we are having multiple productions, right? So capital A denotes A alpha or A alpha 2, A alpha 3, A alpha n or beta 1, beta 2, beta n, right? So we are having the multiple productions for A, right? And among these productions, some of the productions are left recursive, right? So how we are saying, because the left hand side symbol is A and first symbol in the body is also A, so both are same. So this is left recursive production rule. Same is the case with second production. A denotes A alpha 2, so this A is same with the head of the production, so both A's are same. So again we could say it is a left recursive production rule, right? So whenever we find such type of production rules, we have to eliminate these rules by rewriting the rule. Okay, so how do we rewrite? So write it as capital A denotes. So while deriving the string, you start from capital A, right? So if you want to derive a string from A, what you have to do, you have to start with A. And that A can be replaced with either A alpha 1 or A alpha 2 or A alpha n, or beta 1, beta 2, beta n, whatever it may be. So these are the possibilities. So let me say I am considering here A alpha 1, right? Then again, this A can be replaced with either A alpha 1, A alpha 2, A alpha 3, so on. So again, I am considering first production A alpha 1. So A alpha 1. Okay, this A is replaced with A alpha 1 and this alpha 1 will remain same. Again, so again this A can be replaced with A alpha 1, A alpha 2, A alpha 3 or beta 1, beta 2, beta 3, so on anyways. So let me say I am using A alpha 1 again. So this alpha 1 will remain same, this alpha 1 will remain same, right? So at the end, this A must be replaced with either beta 1 or beta 2 or beta n, isn't it? At the end, that A can be replaced with either beta 1, beta 2 or beta n. So let me consider beta 1 here, then rest of the thing alpha 1 alpha 2 sorry alpha 1 alpha 1 alpha 1, these will remain same, right? So anyhow, while deriving the string, the last occurrence of a must be replaced with either beta 1 or beta 2 or beta 3 or beta n, right? And followed by that you may have any number of alphas, right? So to consider the derivation in this form, I am rewriting the rule like this. So last occurrences of a must be replaced with either beta 1 or beta 2 or beta 3 or beta n, right? So afterwards you may have any number of alphas, right? So that part I am representing it with a new variable that is called as z. So a denotes beta 1 z or beta 2 z or beta n z. Okay, or instead of this, that means instead of replacing a capital A with a alphas, you can directly replace that a with beta, right? Either beta 1 or beta 2 or beta 3, right? So that's why you could write beta 1 or beta 2 beta 3 so on beta n, right? So this is how we are rewriting the rule, right? So whenever we have the production rule like a denotes a alpha 1 or a alpha 2 or so on a alpha n or beta 1 or beta 2 so on beta n, this is a left recursive rule. So we have to rewrite this left recursive rule. Okay, so how do we rewrite? So write down that variable a denotes. Anyhow, in the derivation just now we have seen that last occurrence of a must be replaced with either beta 1, beta 2, beta 3 or beta n, right? So write those beta 1. Then after beta you may have any alphas, right? So that part we can represent with a variable capital Z. So beta 1z or beta 2z or beta 3z or beta nz. Okay, or that a can be replaced with beta 1 or beta 2 or beta 3 so on beta n, right? Then next, what is z? So this part we consider as a z, right? So here you may have alpha followed by any number of alphas, right? So to represent it in a recursive way, how we are writing, see here, z denotes alpha 1 z. So if you are having sequence of alpha 1s, then how do you write alpha 1 followed by z? Then if you have sequence of alpha 2s, then how do you use the rule alpha 2 followed by z or alpha n followed by z? Or you may have only one alpha. So alpha 1 or alpha 2 or alpha n, right? So if you consider this example, let me consider alpha 1 z, right? Suppose I am having three alphas. Suppose I want to derive three alphas. Then how do we? First we have to take alpha 1. This z is replaced by alpha 1 z, right? Right? And finally this z is replaced with alpha 1, right? So alpha 1 alpha 1 alpha 1, right? So here we are writing this rule in a recursive way, right? So that it supports the sequence of alphas followed by beta, right? So last occurrence of z will be replaced with either alpha 1 alpha 2 or alpha 3 so on alpha n, right? So this is the formula you could say, or this is the rule that you must remember to convert a left recursive production rule into non-left recursive production rule. Okay, so I think the concept is clear. So just go through the rules once. So first rule is eliminate epsilon production. So whatever the modified grammar that you will get, consider it for unit productions. If there are unit productions, eliminate them. Consider the modified grammar for useless symbols and production rules. If there are useless production rules, eliminate them. And whatever the modified grammar that you will get, convert into CNF. After that, after converting that grammar into CNF, assign the variable names to the variables in the grammar. Okay, v1 v2 v3 so on vn. Order all those productions based on their indexing or based on their sequence numbers. Okay, and consider each production. If the production in this form vi denotes a vj alpha and I value is less than j, and in this case vj is in gnf, then what you have to do, substitute vj value in vi production rule. That's it. Okay, seventh rule, this is the controversial case where vi denotes Vj alpha and I value is greater than J. So here also we are considering that Vj is in GNF, and since it is in GNF, we can substitute Vj production in Vi production rule. That means you can substitute body of Vj production in place of Vj in Vi rule. Okay, so I have shown with one example here. Next, we repeat this process until left hand side Vi will become equal to first symbol or first variable in RHS becomes equal. Okay, becomes equal. So whenever these two symbol becomes equal, what happen? It may leads to the left recursive rule. Like, so whenever we have the left recursive rule in this format, you have to rewrite in this way, right? So let me give one more example here for this left recursion. So this is only the concept which you feel difficult in the normal form, especially with this left recursive production rules, right? So no need to worry about it. If you are having clear idea on how to write this left recursive rule into non-left recursive way, you can solve any problems. So let me consider one example. Capital A denotes capital A, small a, or capital A, small b, or small c, or small d. Okay. So if you observe, this rule is left recursive, right? So why we are saying this is left recursive? Because the symbol head of the production and first symbol in the body of the production both are same, right? So capital A denotes capital A, small a, capital A denotes capital A, small b, right? So whenever you encounter such type of production, you have to imagine that production in this form. Capital A denotes A, and this part whatever you have, either it is a variable or it is a terminal or sequence of variable or sequence of terminals, whatever it may be, you have to consider in a form of alpha 1 or capital A, followed by, again, if you have any combination of variables and terminals, it doesn't matter, you have to consider it is a alpha 2, right? And then since we are not having any capital A here at the beginning, so we could assume this form as beta 1. So small c will be considered as beta 1 and small d will be considered as beta 2, right? So this is the form, the left recursive form. Now how do you write this in a non-left recursive way? As per rule, capital A denotes beta 1 z. Okay, so beta 1 means small c, and you have to add one new variable capital Z, or next beta 2 z. What is beta 2? Small d capital Z, or beta 1 or beta 2. What is beta 1? Small c. What is beta 2? Small d. Okay, now completed. Now we have to write the definition for Z. Capital Z denotes what is capital Z? Alpha 1. What is alpha 1? Small a. So alpha 1 Z, small a Z. Next alpha 2 Z. What is alpha 2? Small b, capital Z. Okay. Then alpha 1. What is alpha 1? Small a. Or alpha 2. What is alpha 2? Small b. See here. This is the non-left recursive production for the left recursive production. This one. Okay. Understood? Very easy. So just you need to remember this two rules. That means how could we write in a non-left recursive way? Okay. That's it. The rest of the thing is same. Now let us solve one problem. Convert the CFG into GNF. Okay. So first thing, consider the given grammar. S denotes capital A denotes small a, capital B small a or small a, capital B denotes small b, capital A small b or small b. So first check for epsilon productions. So it is not having any epsilon productions, so you can take this grammar directly for the second step, that is check for unit productions. Okay, since we are having unit production, that is capital S denotes capital A, so you have to eliminate it. So try to eliminate those unit productions directly. So S denotes capital A is there, right? And capital A is having the production rules. Capital A is having the production rule, small a, capital B, small a, or small a, right? So S denotes capital A. So this is the unit production. So replace this unit production. So substitute the value of A here in S production, right? So what is the body of A? Small a, capital B, small a, or small a, right? And remove this A. Okay. So S denotes A is not there. So directly you can write the rule S denotes small a, capital B A, or small a. So after elimination of unit production, you will get this grammar, isn't it? Right? And next, this modified grammar you have to consider for step number 3. What is step 3? Remove useless symbols and productions, right? So you have to check whether every variable is reachable from start symbol or not, right? So what is the start symbol? Yes. From yes, if you check the production rule, from yes, you can reach the variable B, right? So what is the production rule for B? B denotes small b, capital A, B, or small b. So since the B production is having capital A, so we could say that A is also reachable from yes. So from S we can reach variable B, from B we can reach variable A. So we can conclude that the three variables are reachable. I mean the two variables A and B are reachable from S. Okay. So there are no useless symbols and production rules. So you could take the same grammar for converting it into CNF. Okay. So this is the grammar after elimination of unit productions, and there are no useless symbols and productions. So you have to convert it into CNF, right? So already you know how to convert it into CNF, right? So first production is there. S denotes small a, capital B, small a. So this production is not in CNF, right? So you have to apply the rule like replace this A with TA, then B will remain same since it is a variable. This A will be replaced with TA. Okay. Now what is this TA? TA will remain. TA is nothing but small a. Okay. Now what is the modified production of S in CNF? S denotes TA, B, TA, or S denotes small a. It is in CNF. TA denotes small a, right? So this is how we have converted the S production in CNF, right? So if you consider the first production, it is not in CNF, right? Because we are having three variables. S denotes small a is in CNF, TA denotes small a is in CNF, right? So you have to add these two productions to the P dash, right? So resultant grammar production set P dash, you can add these two variables, two production rules to it. Next, consider the production which is not in CNF. So TA, B, TA, right? So this TA is okay, this variable is okay, but these two variables we should not have. So represent those two variables with a K1, right? So what is this K1? K1 denotes B, TA. Okay, so this is how we can convert this production into the CNF. Okay. So if you observe here this example, S denotes TA, BTA, not in CNF. TA denotes small a, it is in CNF. S denotes small a, it is in CNF, right? So next we are bringing this S denotes TA, BTA into the CNF. How we are writing? S denotes TA K1, K1 denotes BTA. Okay. Now next take the next production. A denotes A, B, A. So again we have to convert it into CNF. So A denotes replace small a with TA. So A, TA, B, TA. Next A denotes small a, it is already in CNF, right? So consider this A denotes TA, B, TA, this form, and convert it into CNF, right? So how do we convert? A denotes TA, the B, TA will be represented by using K1, right? So why? Because K1, if you observe the previous value of K1, it is BTA only, right? and here we are getting the same BTA. So instead of using the say another variable to represent BTA, you have to use the same variable, right? So A denotes TA K1, right? It is K1. Okay. Now what is this K1? K1 is considered as BTA. Okay. Next, take the next production. Capital B denotes small b, capital A, small b. So it is not in CNF. Convert it into CNF. Represent small b with variable TB. A will remain as it is. B will be represented as TB. Again, it is not in CNF. Then B denotes TB. This is not A. TB. TB. And this part you have to represent with K2. Okay. K2. What is this K2? K2 is nothing but ATB. And next B denotes small b, it is already in CNF, right? So if you write all the productions in CNF, you will get this result. Okay. Next. So after that, apply the step number 5. Relabel the variable. That means assign the variable names to every variable in the grammar. So S will be assigned, will be considered as V1, TA will be considered as V2, K1 will be considered as V3, A will be considered as V4, B will be considered as V5. Just sequentially you have to assign, but remember that the start symbol of the grammar must be assigned a variable name as V1. Okay, and rest of the all you can assign as you wish. Okay. Next, order the productions. So V1, next V4, V5, V2, V6, V3, V7 likewise. So you have to order those productions in a sequential way. V1 production, V2 production, V3 production, V4 production, V5, V6, V7 production. Order those productions in a sequential manner. Okay. I have not mentioned the sequential manner, so just I have written the productions as it is, right? So just I have substituted these variable names V1, V2, V3, so on in place of the production symbols, variables in the production rule, right? So this order, whatever the order is there, just I have taken that order, right? So S means V1, so V1. Next, what is we are having TA. So this TA is considered as V2, so V2. Next, we are having K1. K1 is considered as V3, okay, or small a terminal, so it will remain same, right? So whatever the order that was there in the CNF, I have taken the same order. So just try to organize it according to their sequence numbers. V1 denotes, V2 denotes, V3 denotes, V4 denotes likewise. Okay. Right, next. Consider the each production. Let me consider V1 production first. So it is in form V1 denotes V2, V3. So V1 denotes V2, V3. It is not in GNF. V1, we are having one more production. V1 denotes small a. So V1 denotes small a. It is in GNF. It is in GNF. So you have to take this form which is not in GNF. So V1 denotes V2. So 1 is less than 2 here. So immediately we have to check whether V2 is in GNF or not. V2 is in GNF or not. V2 is in GNF or not. So immediately go to V2. So V2 is in GNF, right? Since V2 is denoting small a, V2 is in GNF. Then what you have to do? Substitute this V2 value here. Okay. So what you will get? V1 denotes a V3. Okay. So the moment when you substitute V2 value in V1 production, it comes into the GNF form. Okay. Done. Next. Consider the next production. Let me consider V4 here. I am following this order, right? So V4 denotes V2, V3. Okay. So V4 denotes V2, V3. Here I value is greater than J. Okay. So 4 is greater than 2. And you have to check whether V2 is in GNF. Yes. V2 is in GNF. Okay. So substitute that V2 value in place of V2 here or in V4 production rule. So what you will get? You will get V4 denotes V2 means A, V3. So it will comes into the GNF, right? And for V4 we are having one more production. V4 denotes a small a, so it is also in GNF, so no need to worry about it. So like this, so V4 comes into GNF. Now consider the V5 production. V5 denotes V6 V7, so I value is less than j, 5 is less than 6. So check whether V6 is in GNF. So yes, V6 is in GNF. Substitute V6 in V5 production. So substitute V6 value here in V5 production. So what is the V6 production value? It is B. V6 denotes B. So substitute here. So in V5 production, if you substitute V6 value, you will get V5 denotes B V7. So it will comes into GNF. Okay. And for V5 we are having another form. V5 denotes B. It is in GNF. So no need to consider it. Next V3 denotes V5 V2. So 3 is less than 5. Yes. So check V5 is in GNF. Yes, V5 is in GNF. So substitute V5 value in V3 production. So what is V5 value? What is V5 value? V5 value we got two values are there. B V7 is one value. Another value is small b. So we have to substitute both values to obtain different combinations. So if you consider V3 is denoting V5 V2. Okay. So what is V5? V5 we are having two forms. V5 denotes B V7 or small b. Okay. Now take the V3 production, substitute V5 values in that rule. So V5 in place of V5 substitute first value, that is B V7, and V2 will remain same. Okay. Another value we are having is B small b, substitute in place of V5, V5 will get V2. So this is the production rule that we will get for V3. So V3 denotes B V7 V2 or B V2. Okay, B V2. So it will becomes GNF. Okay. Now we are having the rule V7 denotes V4 V6. So 7 less than 4 condition false. Okay. So we can say that the I value is greater than J. I value is greater than J. And check whether V4 is in GNF. So V4 we already brought it into GNF. So substitute V4 values here to obtain different combinations. So substitute V4 value here. What is V4 value? A V3. So substitute here. You will get A V3 6. Okay. And next we are having one more value for V4. I think so. Small a. V4 denotes small a. Okay. So substitute here. So V7 you will get A V6. A V6. So you will get this V7 also in GNF. So rewrite all the productions in a sequential way. So if you observe V1 denotes A V3 or A, it is in GNF. V4 denotes A V3 or A, it is in GNF. V5 denotes B V7 or B, it is in GNF. V2 denotes small a in GNF. V6 in GNF. V3 in GNF. V7 in GNF. Right. So the resultant grammar in GNF is G dash is equal to V dash T dash P dash S dash. Sorry, S, not S dash. So S dash denotes, sorry, S denotes V1, V dash denotes V1, V2, V3, V4, V5, V6, V7, T dash denotes A comma B. Okay. So here I represented S dash. Why? Because I have changed the variable name. That means start symbol S is changed to V1. So to represent that effect, I have represented as start symbol as S dash. Okay. So that's it. So this is the way to convert the given context-free grammar into GRE-batch normal form. So just practice this problem once again. If you feel any difficulty or if you get any doubt, then feel free to get in touch with me. I will clarify your doubts in the next session, as well as I will try to solve one more problem for this concept in the next session. Okay. Thank you for attending this session.